All right. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday. We're going to kick it off. New time, daylight savings is in effect. It's messing me up. So we'll see if this new time works going right after Zuber's daily financial. But we got the one and only Cody Davis on. So morning, man.
Good morning. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
I know you're a little under the weather, so thank you for doing this. I gave the Gen Z some hard time on your guys' other week for not showing up to the call on Sun or Saturday, but yeah, it's going around. So hope you're feeling better. But yeah, let's get into it. I think we're gonna kind of dig into maybe why most people fail at real estate investing. So did you get a chance to think about that or have any thoughts on that?
I've got some thoughts on it. I think the biggest reason is they don't start. They find all the reasons why not to do it. And whether that is they want to buy a big property, syndicate, and then they don't put together a deal that merits raising capital. So they blame it on the capital, or they want to buy a single family rental and then they realize, oh, it doesn't cash flow in my market. So I need to buy out of market. And then I can't find a property manager that I trust, or I don't have boots on the ground. And so there's a list of reasons, and that'd be the biggest reason people fail at it. They don't find enough reasons to do it. They just find reasons why not to do it, and you're not going to know enough to buy your first deal. Is the other piece. I know I learned a lot on my first few deals, and I'm still learning stuff on deals. So it's you got to go in and know that hey, I'm going to do the best I can, going to underwrite for cash flow, but I'm going to make mistakes. And I'd say that's the number one reason.
The one thing I find unique though is when I first heard your story, I just felt like you hit the ground running, like you're winning. Like you had all these properties under your belt, seller finance. So I felt like, man, Cody's killing it out there. And it seems like now, not saying you lost or anything, but it seems like you're more transparent about maybe some of the lumps you took and how you're trying to make the portfolio more efficient. So I feel like you're so much more relatable now with your story, and people are like, oh, even Cody had some struggles, during his
A
journey.
lot.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think that's why so much people love seeing you on and hearing you actually talk about those things. Do you see more people kind of want to know more that side of things than your wins?
Yeah. I mean, you can learn from wins, but what do you do when you start losing? I've had a lot of issues in the portfolio. Some were things I could have controlled that I didn't know how to control, and others were just things that happened to me because of the environment that I was in. So people that I was doing business with, I didn't know it at the time, but if I had the info I had now, I wouldn't have ever talked to them. And some relationships just backfired. Like they said they wanted one thing and then they want another. But you can learn a lot more from those situations than you can from just seeing what people are doing right, which is unfortunate because everyone online shows, for the most part, what they're doing right.
All right, I want to say good morning to Emily Lopez. You can DIY homes. So she was a new guest and new interview on my channel. And congratulations, she just posted also on social media that she hit 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. So go check out her channel. I'll put it in the chat. But she was asking, what's your social media? So I put your channel in the chat also. So Emily, please go subscribe to Cody's channel. But Emily's in Wyoming. She's killing it. She has a DIY. She's a realtor. She's a investor, and she also has a 4 years running Buffalo Wings championship in New York. They've taken home the trophy. So go check out her channel.
Wow.
She'll be back on Thursday though. Let's see what else we got here real quick. Yeah, I think definitely a lot of people know my story also, and I kind of jumped in it, went full steam ahead, and I always tell people, I made a lot of mistakes, but I'm glad that I took that leap. And yeah, I think a lot of people always asking me, oh, what are you doing now? It's probably been, up until recently, it's probably been maybe just 4 years, kind of just sitting on the sidelines, trying to let things stabilize, let things kind of figure itself out, build up the reserves. So definitely that's where I've been the last 4 years. But yeah, I can't imagine not doing this now, especially like the world that we're living in. You see the government shutting down, people living paycheck to paycheck, and even myself, hurting my shoulder. I'm on workers' comp right now. The doctors even saying, I may not even be going back to the firehouse, after this. So something like that, definitely having this extra stream of incomes definitely is helpful. And, I'm glad I went on this path. Let's see. I would say also, I think, do you think a lot of people are more addicted to learning than not doing?
Yeah, but that's because they don't want to make a mistake. And if you just keep learning, like if you're in school, for example, it's a safe space. That's the culture. It's a safe space to make uh, errors on your test. You can study again. You can take it. You can retake it. Like the worst thing you got to do is spend more money and take the course over. It's not that big of a deal.
I just
But
also, oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but as soon as you get out of that environment, you make a mistake. There can be a lot of financial harm or setbacks, and so it is easier to just stay in that learning environment.
I definitely think that's what's great about the school community, the one rental at a time community, and you're finding that out firsthand also. You're part of the Saturday Gen Z accountability group. But I think that's the one thing is this group is so helpful in not necessarily pushing people to get started, but just even talking about all the failures and losses so that people realize that it is out there, but you're able to overcome that. And like you're talking about your portfolio, right? You've gone through some struggles. You're trying to you kind of have this new vision on what your portfolio you want it to look like. But I think, like I said, your transparency is so helpful to all the new investors and even people even thinking about wanting to scale too big, right? They're thinking like, oh, maybe is that the best course of action? So was there like a pivoting moment for you, like made you kind of reevaluate things?
I look at everything as like you gotta manage your business. And when I had a couple hundred rentals, it was chaos all the time. There was always a fire to put out, and there wasn't any bigger of a payday than when I had 100 rentals. Because I was actually watching the Bradley interview on dropping bombs that I did a few years ago, and I had 122 rentals. And I was thinking back to it last night because we had this topic, and I probably had more free cash flow, like non-contingent income, with 122 rentals when I did that interview than when I had the 200 and whatever I had, which was a bummer. It just means I built it wrong. But that was probably the moment. It was like I look around, there's more property, more equity, but there's not more disposable income.
Yeah, I think this is a great question or comment that All Nighter Hider puts in the chat. So he said the uneducated economist asked Matt, the lumberjack landlord, at which deal did you not feel nervous during the buy? And Matt answered the 47th deal when a total loss could be absorbed. I thought that was insightful.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say probably after the 38 unit. So I would have had 68 rentals. There was 4 deals though. And the reason was I never bought a bigger deal after that. I was going bigger. So I started with a 12, then I bought a 12, scaled back to a 6, and then I bought a 38. After that, I bought a bunch of sixplexes, bought some 10s, bought some 12s, bought some 5s, and triplexes. And so it was a lot less intimidating. And if I went out and bought a 75 unit, 100 unit deal, I'd feel nervous. But I've just been doing same for the last few years, similar to you. You've been coasting and stacking reserves. I haven't been stacking reserves, but I've been coasting and just buying deals I feel comfortable with. And so typically like 8 to 12 unit range, and I just add them. And there's not a lot of nerves in those. Doesn't mean it can't go wrong, but it's not new.
I want to say good morning to Alex, the accidental investor, who I will be actually live streaming with him at 11 a.m. Pacific. So he, like he mentioned, he's a government worker, government shutdown. So he's not getting paid right now, but he's very happy. He has some rental properties to help him through this time, and he wants to share his story. So Alex will be on later today with me, and we're kind of going back to the thing about addicted to learning. And I think, and I'm not sure if kids are in your future. You just got recently married, and I always kind of use that as an example. When we before I had my first son or my son, you read all the books, right? You read all the books. You're trying to parent help, how to take care of this child, how you're going to be the best parent out there. And once the child is born, everything you read is kind of out the window, and you just kind of have to figure it out. And you take bits and pieces of the books you've read and the things you've learned, but the rest is kind of just survival. And you realize, like, okay, I can do this. There is going to be some hiccups and problems, but there's a way to figure it out, right? And I always relate that to real estate investing or investing in general, I guess.
Yeah, and we are planning on having 3 kids, so that'll be fun.
Yes, Lynn, I corrected myself. I said no, I meant my son, not my first son, my son. But yeah, he's man, I don't want to get into it. Driving me nuts. Flag football yesterday. I just no confidence out there. Those kids, they practice when they practice one way, and then they go out on the field, and it's completely different the way they play. But I got to figure out how to get them to go out there with some confidence. Let's see. What about they chase freedom without building structure? You think that's the reason for why people may fail in real estate investing?
I think it just goes back to the unwillingness to make mistakes. You're chasing freedom, but you're not willing to build structure for it. If you know the steps and you've heard the steps, you either do it or you don't. And there's a lot of minute details in the middle of that, but I mean, there's a lot of smoke screens why you wouldn't do it. So if you could be chasing freedom but not building the structure, well, building the structure is one of the steps. So if you got to address what the issue is behind that. If it's fear of making mistakes, fear of losing money, and I didn't want to, but I've lost a lot of money on partnerships. I lost a lot of time on partnerships. I've overbuilt units, but I did that in the pursuit of finding the right structure for me. Thinking that you're going to just get it is not reality.
Yeah, and I don't know if you ever talked on that matter, but partnerships, was that something? Let's say you were starting over. Maybe I know how things kind of turned out, but would you advise newer investors to maybe do partnerships in the beginning to get started?
If that is their only avenue, I think it would be better to own something with a partner than to not. But if you spend a little bit of time diving deeper into it and you're focused and intentional, you can likely figure out a way to do it without partners. It comes down to the person, though.
Would you say your partner or investment partner should be kind of similar to you in your skills, or would you rather have a partner that has different strengths than you?
I'm more focused, rather than the skills, on someone who wants to go the same direction. You can learn some skills, but if you've got someone who's going the wrong way, doesn't matter what skills they have, you're not going to go the right direction. Or someone's going to be unhappy, and then it's not a great partnership.
Hey, Rusty's here. Good morning. He says, good morning, Marc and Cody. Hopefully you'll be in Vegas and see Cody kicking off day one at the ORAD event in February. Let's see. Do you have any reasons that you think real estate investors fail? I know you mentioned one so far from your side. Was there another thought?
You buy a bunch of alligator deals. If you buy a bunch of negative cash flowing assets, you're going to fail. I commented on someone because I couldn't sleep last night, being sick, so I was just awake. And someone posted a YouTube video. And I only ever comment on people's stuff if it's like super wrong or if it's late at night. And so it was late at night, and they said, I'm going to keep this deal. The negative cash flow is $500 a month, but the tax benefits of keeping it are so great. Like if he only does that, he's going to fail. It's a reality. So I told him, I was like, well, why don't you just buy a deal that cash flows and has tax benefits? But if you build a bunch of those into your business, you'll fail.
Yeah, that's Zuber's what one of his rules, right? No alligators, right? So I think that definitely, yeah, it'll slow you down, put you in a bad position if you're bleeding money every month. Flavio is looks like he's coming from your channel. He says, Cody, can you set me as a moderator? I think he's trying to kick some people out of some bots, baby, on your side. Hey, morning, Dustin Richards. I'm not sure, I haven't seen you be here before, but please subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. And yes, I would pick up Joe Flacco off of waivers if he's available. He's putting up some numbers. I mean, unfortunately, it was against my Bears, but the Bears pulled it out at the end. So that was a wild game. So that was one of the craziest games I've ever seen. So um, let's see. I would also say they don't fail fast enough. That was another one I wrote down. I think sometimes, and I think that's also what got me in a bad position was everything was kind of easy in the beginning when I first jumped in. And so I thought it was going to be easy. And that's why I just scaled so quickly because I was like, oh, this is easy. You just, you put the down payment, you get a property, cash flows, property manager, and it's all rosy. And it's like, this is going to be, so let's go buy, 10 more in like 5 months, right? And yeah, definitely that was a learning curve. And I think Dion touches on it quite a bit too. Even just, even a property that could be turnkey, rent ready, it takes time to stabilize, right? You need to learn your systems, and we talked about it a bit earlier about having your systems in place. But yeah, just figuring out how to deal with property managers. Dealing, sometimes your property on paper seems great, but now it could be a tenant thing. So for me, yeah, kind of it does take some failure to become better, and if you don't fail in the early parts, it can probably make you want to quit in the long run, I think.
Yeah, get it out of the way. It's way more costly to wait.
Dustin is asking, yeah, primarily Dustin, this channel we talk more real estate, financial freedom. Sometimes I have Bitcoin, crypto people on. We have fractional real estate people join the channel. We have DIY people, marketing, lenders. So kind of all over the place. Someone sounds sick. Yes, proof. Oh, yes, Cody is under the weather. So I thank him for doing this. He had to jump off the Saturday Gen Z call a little early. But yeah, there's something going around. So people are not feeling well. But Proof Oak, I might be doing a regular Bitcoin thing on Saturdays now with Lead Pray Hodl. So come check us out. We're gonna do like a weekly recap. But Cody, any other thoughts why real estate investors may fail?
Well, not buying your deal, buying a negative cash flowing deal, utilizing too short term of debt. You build a business off of short term debt, you will eventually fail. Playing for just capital gains, you will fail. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If you're only planning to build your capital stack and you never buy for cash flow, you will eventually lose if you keep playing the game. You get some big wins, you stop playing the game, it could work out. But for people who play the capital gain thing for the long term, you will mess up eventually. And if you keep on scaling the size, it'll wipe you out. So those are a couple more reasons.
Dustin Richards is asking, do you know much about stocks? I believe you don't have any stocks, correct, Cody? Is that correct?
I don't have any.
Primarily real estate and precious metals, maybe? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dustin, yeah, unfortunately, we do not do much stocks, both of us. Sometimes I have some people on, but primarily, yeah, real estate, some Bitcoin, fractional real estate. And yeah, I so to that point though, I am one of those that just liquidated all my retirement accounts, took the penalty, took the hit, and jumped into real estate. And definitely glad I did it. It's going to allow me to retire early with generating cash flow and be able to walk away from a golden handcuffs of a pension. I mean, I'm still going to collect a pension, just not my full pension. But I'd rather do it now than wait till my retirement age. Uh, Yasik is giving you a hard time again. Says Gen Z are weak. Just kidding. Feel better soon, Cody. So Yasik is known as the one of the bullies in the school community, but he was there at the Saturday call. But yes, Dustin is asking, Cody, what do you think about people taking a loan against their house to buy property? I've heard of that. Sounds scary to me personally.
Sounds like you shouldn't do it. I had a rule that I created with my business partner, Christian. And what we would say is you shouldn't borrow against anything you're unwilling to lose. That said, if you're unwilling to lose your house, you shouldn't borrow against it to invest. It's just, that's a sound principle. If you're unwilling to lose a property that you worked hard to pay off, you shouldn't get a HELOC against it to expand. You should just use cash flow and save up over time. Anything that I got in the last 6 years, do I want to lose it? Absolutely not. I see a lot of long-term benefit, but I am willing to give it up if I had to get to the next spot. And so that's, again, the principle of don't borrow against anything you're unwilling to lose.
Great advice there. I think even Zuber and Dion folks like to touch on, you know, if you do take, so Dion hasn't, you know, taken out or borrowed off any of his properties, but I think their kind of consensus is if you do take out a HELOC or borrow, you know, make sure you can pay it back in a certain amount of timeline, right? So if you're going to borrow against it to do, you know, investment property, it's not something where you want to have outstanding for an extended period of time, right? So if your plan is to pay it back, you know, in 6 months, you're doing a flip or something, but that would be a great advice too. If you did feel comfortable doing it, make sure it's going to be paid back in a timely manner. Yeah, you know, so I think my biggest thing though is they don't fail. You don't fail fast enough, and I think a lot of that is people fear failure, so they don't build those reps also. And you know, I think little failures here and there is teaching you the skill set how to overcome things, and I think that's what people have to go through because unfortunately, you know, in investing, you're going to take some lumps. And like I said, I think I love that transparency on your side, sharing your journey and talking about it. And I think, you know, it just, that's how you build reps though, just like anything, right? It's just practice and you build that skill set. So where are you at, you know, where are you at now in kind of where you want your portfolio to be, I guess, because I know you've been kind of fixing things, cleaning it up. Are you pretty much kind of at that point now where you're good, or you're still trying to fix some certain things up in your portfolio?
Well, I have, for the most part, stabilized portfolio. Most of my units are rented. Most of them are paying. Most of the renovations are done. I shouldn't have to touch another water heater, hopefully, for 5-10 years. Stuff like that. There's still things to do, but the last thing I really have to do is pay off investor notes. So when I bought, I did a bunch of partnerships. My first few deals, not so much, but as I scaled, I did a bunch of partnerships. And as I could buy those people out, I'd give them cash, or they'd finance out their equity. So my partner would seller finance their ownership to me. And I just make payments. I've got a few contracts left to pay off. And so I got one for 400 grand. I got one for 180. I've got one for 25. I've got one for 20. And once I get those paid off, I'll have more money coming in than I could spend. But right now, you figure those debts are anywhere from 5% to 12%. It's a lot of monthly outflow. So I'm servicing that out of the portfolio, but I'd like to get those paid off. And so I'm just doing the debt snowball on those. And then I'm going to be in more of a similar position to Dion of more money coming in than going out.
All right. So you know what? For Dustin, looks like Dustin may be a new guest to the channel. So hopefully he'll subscribe to both channel. I'll put your Cody's channel also in the chat. But He's asking, do you have any commercial property? So I think he doesn't know who you are, Cody. So maybe you can
I
quickly
yeah,
share who you are.
I've got some mixed use properties where there's apartments and there's commercial spaces. Like I've had barbershops and dog grooming places. I've got a spot that a restaurant might go into, but it's primarily apartments, multifamily, 5 to 40 units.
Yeah, so I just have one single tenant commercial space in Hawaii with a partnership with my family, but that's all I have. Yeah. So, but there is Cody's channel. So Dustin, also you can also jump over there, check it out. Please subscribe. And Cody's sharing on Tuesday, Thursdays, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
your regular days to share his short YouTube videos, and Monday is our regular scheduled kick it off for the week on Mondays. Me and Cody's live stream. So how's your channel doing? How do you come up with your topic? That's what I always struggle with, coming up with ideas, topics for weekly things. So how's that coming for you?
I usually just make a video on whatever I'm doing that day. So I never schedule it out. I mean, there's some videos like I recorded a video this weekend for tomorrow, but it's just because I was thinking about it and I would have forgotten. So there's no scripts, there's no edits, no cuts. So if it's a 4 minute video or 5 minute video, it's just a 4 or 5 minute chunk of thought. And then I post it and I don't watch it. So I don't watch any of my content. And so if you ask me what I said, I'm just going to say it's whatever the truth was for that day. Because there's no planning. Like, for my Thursday video, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. And that's how it is every single week.
So that's also why I like watching those, and then we recap it the next week, because like you're saying, you just kind of like you're saying, just whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking about, and then I think maybe you haven't completely thought about it yet, right? So there's still some thoughts there after the video. So that's why I like to dig into it the following week. So maybe that we can incorporate that into our Monday live stream, is kind of go over the videos that you put out. But All Nighter Hider does say, oh man, we turned a fourplex into a fiveplex, taking it from residential to commercial. It's not rented out enough to warrant the increase in expenses. Not yet. And then Flavio, coming from your channel, says, Cody, have you converted a hotel to multifamily?
Yes. I wouldn't do it again. You could do it. I made money on it. The sad part about that deal is it was in a partnership. I was the only local partner. We started filling them up. I was getting tenants in there at $850, $800 a month. And you figure for a hotel room without a kitchen, and it's incredible. But people need a place to stay. And then they bought me out, so I made money. And they had no local boots on the ground. And so I watched month after month, week after week, it slowly got worse. And what I realized on a motel conversion is it's a lot more hands-on, because the type of person, not for better or for worse, but the type of person who's living in those is typically the type of person who doesn't qualify to rent from my apartments. And so you're looking at people that are down on their luck, have a bad situation. It can happen to anybody, but it's much more hands-on is the point. And the partnership not being local, it got worse and worse and worse over time. They're gonna do fine, I think, but words from someone who's done it before: only do it in your market. Don't think you're going to be successful just because you get a really cheap price per unit out of state. It is much more hands-on. You can make money, but I was at that property multiple times a week, every week.
All right, I'll let you answer this first, and I'll answer. So Jane is asking, how do you overcome the fear of buying a property that is not in the same city or state where you live? My hub and I would love to buy outside of Cali, Central Valley, to get more bang for our buck.
Get really confident in what you're buying. If you haven't done it before, okay, that's a knock against you. However, if you know every deal that has sold in that market, you know what the rents are. You know what the rents are per location. For example, in Moses Lake, if you're on the peninsula, the South Peninsula is kind of ghetto. And so I had to do some learning and understand, drive by it, walk it. It's like, oh, why do I get $50 or $75 a month less on a 1 bedroom here than I do over on the north part of the peninsula or east of the peninsula or west? And so if you don't feel confident about it, which is the reason you're scared, figure out why things are the way they are. Talk with owners. When I first bought in Moses Lake, I didn't own anything in Moses Lake. I didn't know anybody in Moses Lake. Never been there. So I met with a bunch of owners, and they told me about their experiences. That might mean you have to take a flight somewhere else, meet up with a bunch of brokers, meet up with some owners, drive locations. Now, you're not going to be able to do that in a huge market. You won't be able to know all the areas, but pick a target market, maybe a zip code, drive it, meet with owners over there, meet with brokers over there, and spend a little bit of time and money to get over that fear. Because if you don't do that work, you're going to have gray space. And gray space means it's not black and white. It is not yes or no, it's maybe. And ambiguity is dangerous for the nerves.
Yeah, so if you don't know my story, I'm out in Hawaii, so definitely a high cost of living area. And for me, what made sense for me was investing out of state. So the first place I would start is, I think, you're going to have fear no matter. I think even if you invested close to you, you're going to have fear. And as you can probably see, even people investing in their backyard have the same type of issues that some out of state investors deal with. Yes, out of state investing has some different challenges, but you're basically playing the same game, and each one has their own challenges. Either you're going to deal with higher price points, or you're going to have to deal with investing, remotely. But I think it's finding that community, and the biggest thing is finding other investors in that market that you are interested in. So I think the biggest problem is that people get too caught up in what market seems the best or has the best numbers. So they're always looking up what is the best 5 markets to invest in out of state, or what is the cheapest markets to invest in, what is the best rent. And they get caught up in the numbers, and they absolutely have no resources in that market. And then they jump into this market and they have no one to kind of bounce ideas off of. They have no connections there. They have no boots on the ground. So I definitely would say that would be the first place. If you're going to invest out of state, find a community. And I think, people are putting that in the chat. Like, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be the one rental at a time or school community. There's a lot of communities out there, like Coach Carson has his own, but find a community that you relate to, and find a community that you can have people that you can bounce ideas off of, or even find people to piggyback off of their systems. And I think, like, even Cody, you've always given, Millennial Mike a little hard time, right? So he invests in Gary, Indiana, out of state. It's definitely a lower price point market, but it works for him, right? But you have to just find a market that then. But Mike has a great networking group there, so I think that's what helps him, right? So that's the biggest thing. So Jane, definitely, if you want, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm still offering people first month free in school. So if you want to check out the one rental at a time school community, where you can find a lot of people in the California area, either investing in their backyard or investing out of state, yeah, reach out to me, and I'll sponsor you your first month. Just message me. But yeah, I think that'll be the first place I start. Just find people that are in your area. Yes, so Yasik, nothing good in Pittsburgh. So Yasik is also going to be pivoting towards Pittsburgh. He's trying to not have too many people piggyback on our system, or jump in, or make the market too attractive. But yeah, Yasik is in Jersey, but he's going to be pivoting towards Pittsburgh. Let's see. Oh, Hyder says, Cody has better mental cohesion than I do. I tend to go down rabbit trails when making videos. I think that's where a lot of people struggle, right? So have you kind of followed kind of Zuber's no editing, just record and put it out there?
Well, I mean, I've been saying that for years. No editing before I met Zuber, and you should do that. But I actually made a video, posting it tomorrow. It's called The Art of Winging It. That's what I do all the time. And so whether it's a presentation, a conversation, I've winged my way through so many deals, and it has built up that skill. I didn't start with that. I messed up so many meetings trying to wing it. And my mentor's like, you need to practice. And so my meetings, I forgot what the purchase price was, what the cash flow was, what the rents were. Oops. But the art of winging it can definitely help build that skill set. So that video comes out tomorrow.
All right. Well, I like to hear that because I like to tell I am the master of winging it, I believe, or I'm up there. So I think that is a skill set, right? I think, it's I don't know. I like to believe maybe successful people are good at winging things. They have to be able to pivot, be able to think on their feet quickly. And I think that is a great skill set to have. Um, hold on. Jane is saying, I appreciate everyone's advice. I'm very interested in the school community. I will reach out today. Yeah, just message me on Instagram, financial firefighter. Pretty easy to find, and now I'll connect with you. Yeah, winging it, I think, is very helpful. Being able to pivot. I do have a question though. So, I'm primarily single family homes. Uh, how do you get over that hump of, let's say, maybe a eightplex, you know, getting into that bigger space? I think that is the one question a lot of people always have is how do you get over that hump or that fear possibly? It just seems bigger. That's why, it just,
Well, it is bigger. That said, you should quantify it in the grand scheme of things. An eightplex is amongst the smallest of multifamily buildings ever built. It's going to be the biggest you tackle until it isn't. But in the grand scheme of things, multifamily starts after 5 units. That's really where it starts. Now, you can build a great portfolio off of duplex, triplex, fourplex, and single family houses, but that's more so than just the uh, residential versus commercial loan product, right? You've got residential style buildings, and then you've got commercial style, apartment style buildings. In the apartment world, if that's where you want to go, eightplexes are amongst the smallest. Might be the biggest you, but it's going to be the smallest you ever buy if you continue a path down that. So you qualify that in your head. It's like, okay, well, this is a big step for right now. But if I keep playing in this space, this is going to be the smallest building I ever own in the apartment world. There's not a lot of fiveplexes out there. Someone in the comments said they turned a 4 into a 5. So Hyder.
yeah, Hader.
But other than the few one-off fiveplexes, there's a handful of sixplexes out there. There's not a lot of 7s. So really you're looking at 6s and 8s. Those are the smallest category of apartments. So it comes down to, do I want to play that game? And if I do, this is the most logical stepping stone.
I like that. Yeah. All right. Sorry, going back to winging it, I did. So will you be winging your presentation for Zuber's event, kicking it off on the Saturday?
I respect Zuber too much to do that. That said, I've gotten very good at winging it. It is not worth the off chance that is not my day. Because I've done that before. I flew all the way to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I winged it, and that was not my day. That was the worst presentation I've ever done. I got super nervous because I was speaking at a college, so everybody was my age. I had never done that before. And that was a mistake. So if I respect, I respect him a lot. I'm not willing to mess up his opening day.
I like that. Yeah. Like we said, I think even if it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I think a lot of people are going to be lining up with a lot of questions for you. So I think, maybe your slot is an hour, but your presentation is only going to have to be like, 20 minutes. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions for you. A lot of people tuning in today, they're already showing a lot of interest in what you're building out there. Yep. Yasik says, my saying is for when I serve in military is we will figure it out one day, just not today. Yeah. I definitely think, military, law enforcement, first responder, I think it definitely that's why, like you see Millennial Mike, myself, that's kind of our mindset. And I think a lot of it is we just don't want to leave whatever situation we encounter in a worse situation when we're done. So we kind of go mitigate and figure it out. You're not going to know all the answers, but you try to accomplish what the goal is, get it done to the best of your ability, and leave. And hopefully, it's not in a worse situation. And just on that point, if anybody is wondering what Millennial Mike's been up to, I will be live streaming with him on Wednesday. We're going to catch up on things. It's been a while. So, me and Mike should be fun. There's always a lot of jabs thrown, police, fire, always a little back and forth. So, it'll be a fun one on Wednesday. Yeah, Cody, I don't know. You got anything else to dig on this topic? Anything else you want to touch on?
Another big reason we talked about it a little bit, but the reason people fail is the inability to pivot. When things do go wrong, you're stuck in the sand. If you can't pivot, you're going to fail because you might be doing something a certain way for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden it either goes down the drain or there's a much better opportunity. If you're stuck in your ways, you say, well, there's not a better way to do it. You're going to lose in one way or another. I learned that from Ben Mala, who much bigger fish than I will be in the next couple of decades. But he talks about it all the time. Your ability to pivot is vital for growing over the long term.
So okay, before we get into Big Cody's question about pivoting, how would you relate that to the shiny object syndrome though? About people, like you're saying, you have to be able to pivot, but do you see sometimes people are getting caught up in too many different strategies? Once maybe one has a little hiccup in it.
Oh, absolutely. People do a bunch of stuff they shouldn't do. That doesn't discount the point, though, that let's say you get into a debt product. I've got a little triplex that I own, and my strategy was to do the value add, pull the money out, and I did that. I bought it for $250. I got a loan on it for $272. Net of fees, I had no money in the deal. Great. Well, when I got it, I took it to almost break even. The cash flow was a few $100 a month. It's like $100 a door. Pivoting could look like, well, I'm going to change that debt product out because what got me to where I'm at isn't necessarily what's going to get me to the next level. The problem, though, that I have to weigh is I have a 5% prepayment penalty for a few years. But if I refinance that debt into a new loan with current rates, I'll get an extra $500 a month in cash flow. So it's like you got to weigh the pros and cons there. I think my headphones just died.
Can you hear me?
Oh, interesting. They made the sound that they died. That was weird.
Hyder says entrepreneurs jump out of the plane and build a parachute on the way down. And now we'll get into Big Cody Evers' question, who we're trying to get to convince to go to Vegas still yet in February, but he's on the fence right now. But he says, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Big Cody Evers says, since you don't do a lot of bank financing, how are you confident with your deals?
well, and the debt is the big portion of the money. I would ask back, is it confident in closing? Because if the deal's great, the financing is a big piece of it, but it doesn't make, I mean, it can break the deal, but if you know you're going to make $1 million, you're going to find a way to close it, is my point. So to that question, it's like, do you mean confident in closing or just confident in the deal working?
I think the second part of that question he's asking, do you feel like you are missing something?
I don't, because all the deals I did in the beginning were limited to the owner contract route. I will say though, I wish I dug deeper into the bank deal because there was a way to do it. And if I took on a partner, I could have done it. There's a deal that I passed up and actually bought some of it after the fact. But for whoever put the deal together, they would have made $22 million over 4 years. And I had the builder connection. I had the rental connection through management. Could have done it. Didn't do it. Didn't even have to do all of it. Could have broken it up. All the 7plexes that I've been buying for $1,650,000, I had the opportunity to buy for $920,000. And there's a ton of them. And I didn't want to push the envelope. I didn't want to figure it out. I was focused on my other seller finance value add apartments. Talk about a mistake, being unwilling to do a different path. But that one was, I didn't have the confidence, didn't have the bank connections. So that would be a yes for your deal. I was not confident for that. But even if I had bought 4 of them, which I could have figured out, I just didn't, I would have made $700,000 a deal. And that would have been $2.8 million. Even if I split it 50-50 with a partner, would have made another $1.5 million almost. So you just got to go down the avenue, talk with a lot of banks. A lot of them are going to say no, but believe in the deal and then find a debt product that will make the deal happen.
Yes, I think Cody is clarifying his question. He says, confident in your numbers without having an appraisal.
Oh yeah, I never get appraisals for my stuff. It's a function of cash flow and time. Example, I bought a property for $680 and it sat on the market prior to that for $499 and didn't sell. Why would I spend $4,000 for an appraiser to tell me it's not worth what I paid? I already know it's not. But where is it now and where can I take it? Today that asset's worth $1.5 million. So my point in all that is it's a function of cash flow and time. If you have enough time and you know to a high degree of certainty that you can increase the cash flow, then it's usually a go, unless you're just blatantly overpaying. But run the numbers until you feel confident.
Yeah, I like that. I think before we get into some more questions, on that point, I think that's why I see a lot of people get so caught up in like interest rate. They always look at the history, like, oh, this person paid this much, right? So they feel like maybe I'm overpaying at this price point. So like you're saying, you're not really going to get an appraisal. You kind of know what asset you're buying, what it may be worth down the road, what the cash flow is going to be. And that's what matters to you. Like, you don't care what someone else paid for it a couple years ago, or what their purchase price was, or what they're trying to sell it at. So I do notice that a lot of like newer investors you speak with, they're getting so caught up in those numbers, like, oh well, this person only paid this much when they bought it, and now they're trying to sell it for this, and they're getting caught up in all these different numbers, but yet it cash flows at this certain percentage, right? And it might be worth X amount down the road. So you got, like you're saying, you got to trust your numbers and what you think is going to be worth and what the cash flow is going to be. Yep. Josh Burdick says Cody would do great in Vegas. Bill, all fired up, says, how do you know what is the end game? My goal has changed a few times.
You don't? You don't need to. What you do need to do, though, is play where the goalposts are. If you're playing soccer and the goalpost is 100 feet in front of you, that's where you're shooting for. If it moves a little bit left, a little bit right, up or down, which hopefully it doesn't in that game, otherwise you got worse problems. But in the game of real estate, if the goalposts shift, you're going to shift what you're shooting for. But to not play the game that's in front of you, that'd be a silly question. Not to say your question is silly, but if you know where your current goals lie, shoot for that. And as they shift, you can start to play a different game with the pieces that you have.
Yeah, but you need the pieces, right? You can't be in the game and have no pieces to play with and pivot around. So I think that's the important thing. Like you're saying, get started, accumulate whatever assets or pieces you can have on the board. And then now if, like you're saying, if the game changes a little bit or your goals change, you can always pivot, but you have these pieces to maneuver around. I think you kind of answer. Oh, no, no. Jen Tam had a great question. Curious to know if you think you'll ever do partnership again.
Probably, but it depends on what it is. I've never bought a 100 unit before. If I could buy one tomorrow, but I had to do it in a partnership and the deal made sense, I would do it. However, I've got my 80 units that I own without partners, and someday I will further optimize those and probably 1031 the 80 units into a 100, 150, 200 unit deal without partners. You build the equity on stuff by yourself and then you can scale it. But on the side, I could have a partnership going and I could see that. But it just depends on what the opportunity is, because starting with saying, well, I'm going to just go partner on a deal, that'd be silly because the deal comes first.
I'm going to kind of skip over some questions real quick, but so to Lynn's kind of, I think, adding to this partnership with your wife, like, do you think you guys will ever do a deal together? I think that's maybe what she's getting at.
Oh, yeah, we've already bought property together,
Huh?
and we combined finances.
Oh, that's right. I think you're talking about that on
Yeah,
Zuber. Yeah.
there's different mixed opinions on that, but while it might be right for someone else, it's not right for myself. It's much easier just to combine.
Flavio saying, my portfolio is all singles, but I'm going to steal your concept, Cody, and pivoting to small multifamily. Oh, okay.
Sweet. Yeah, and Sunnyside, Grandview, surrounding areas, Sela, you can pick up some small multifamilies there. Those are small markets with a few key players.
Yeah. There's some old ladies that Flavio's been talking to, I think, that own some small multis. So he's planting the seeds with them, and when they're ready to transition or
Great.
exit. Cody does say, so you're okay overpaying as long as you get great debt.
Well, price is one thing. You think about it over the long term, though. What are you getting? Right? You're getting entitlements when you buy something to income and expenses, to capital repairs. If you can get into a deal and you're getting paid for a very long period of time, if that's your goal, where does price fit into that? You're buying entitlements with debt. If you're entitled to 10 grand a month income or 5 grand a month income or 20 or 40, whatever it is, you're buying the right to receive certain incomes and expenses. And if the reward is worth it to you and it aligns with your goals, who cares if you pay $1 million if it's all debt, or $2 million or 100,000? Sure, you can make the argument for capital gains, but if you just keep increasing your cash flow for long periods of time, it's very hard to go broke.
All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap things up. I believe we're about an hour in. This Monday, this new daylight savings time is going to mess me up a little bit, but I think it worked out well, going right after Zuber's daily financial news. I'm trying to avoid starting before when his is going on. So I think we're going to go right after his. Like I said, I'll be back later today with Alex Duder sharing his journey, being a government worker, being not paid during this time, the government shutdown. He will be on at 11 a.m. Pacific. Cody and me will be back next Monday. Cody will have his video out Tuesday and Thursdays. We'll recap some of that. But Cody, thanks for doing this. Jane, if you are still here, like I said, reach out to me on Instagram and we'll get you into school. But Cody, thanks for doing this. Feel better, man. Get better soon, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks, everyone.